Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's awesome to see you guys. I think we have nine watching. That's really awesome. Hope you guys are having a great day. And unfortunately, we have a number of sick people in this house. So Oliver and Megan are out in the living room, and they are recovering from a pretty bad cold. And I've either missed it or it's just starting to get me. So I'm not sure which one yet, but we are Digital Hammurabi. I am Dr. Josh, and we are coming to you having reached 2,500 subscribers. And it was, I have to say, I was kind of shocked. A lot of it has to do, I think, with the very generous Aaron Ra, who had me on his show, not really knowing a lot about me. I guess when you have 200,000 subscribers, there are a lot of people that come, and so thank you all. I mean, really, it's been it was just fantastic, and it was a really cool day for it to happen because we were supposed to go up to my mother's house, and because Megan and Oliver are sick, we weren't able to do it. And this morning I woke up and saw that we'd hit 2,500. At the moment, I believe we are at 2,641 subscribers. So yeah, we've gone up almost 150 subscribers today. So pretty exciting stuff. Right. So, sorry. I wanted to talk a little bit about the stream that I did with Aaron, which was amazing. He's such a great guy. If you guys haven't subscribed to his channel, I'm sure that you have. But just in case there's somebody out there that hasn't, please go do so. He's doing a really cool video series back and forth with the magisterial Kent Hovind, which is a lot of fun. So, but I think we had a great time. Unfortunately, we were using Google Hangouts, and for some reason, I guess there's a setting that you can lock the screen so that the camera doesn't switch back and forth between people. And so we were anticipating that the screen was gonna go to him when he would talk, come back to me when I would talk. Apparently, that didn't happen, and so you see that whole stream just me, which I don't know. It seemed a little like I was watching myself. I haven't watched the whole thing through, but it seemed like I was watching myself do like a live radio. Like I was a live radio host, and I was listening to someone calling in, which of course was not the case at all. And I actually found, the things that we were talking about to be pretty exciting stuff. If you haven't seen the video, we talked about prophecy. Specifically, I was addressing Mike Winger's response video to Aaron's video, Unfulfilling Prophecy. And I think we did a pretty good job. And of course, I wrote a paper, and I got to present, and it was good that Aaron kind of, I think, reined it in a little bit. I was going to present all of the points of the paper, and I think he noticed that it was getting a little, I don't know, too complex for that forum. So he said, "Why don't we just make the paper available to people?" So that's what we did, and so it's up on our Patreon. I've taken it out of draft form, and I've gone through and touched everything up. Got my citations cited the way that in the format that I wanted, and it's up on our Patreon. I've set it at the $5 tier, not because I want fewer people to have it, but I suspect that because the $1 tier that we have, it still requires Megan to do something. There's like a Patreon reward, and Megan's sort of in charge of the Patreon. I thought that if, like 500 people wanted that paper and they, all gave $1, it's going to create an awful lot of work for her. Probably should have talked to her about that before I did it. Sorry, Megan. But yeah, So it's set at the $5 tier just to sort of make it so that it's not so much work on Megan. I wonder if I'm going to see something in the side chat here from Megan saying, why? No. So what I thought we would do today, and we'll just see how it goes. I know that everybody's obviously celebrating Thanksgiving. I thought maybe, I don't know, my family, if I remember, my memory sort of kind of comes and goes on these types of things. But I think our family eats like late afternoon Thanksgiving dinner. And so I thought maybe somebody might want to have this up during like while they're cooking or something. So anyway, I thought 1:30 would work out okay. Or it was if you guys do eat Thanksgiving lunch, that it would be hopefully after lunch. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. But what I thought we'd do today is I'll reflect just for another minute on that stream with Mike or with Aaron about Mike Winger, and then I'll talk about what's coming up tomorrow. And then what I wanted to do was, because it's Thanksgiving, I wanted to read some Akkadian texts that would, I don't know, remind us of what we have to be thankful for. And of course, I'm not bringing that from like a Christian perspective, but from a Mesopotamian perspective, right? So we're going to read through the Babylonian Theodicy, and then if we have time, we'll look at the dialogue of Pessimism, two stories that just show suffering and sort of purposelessness in life. And so, after reading them, I think I read them this morning and I went, man, I do have a lot to be thankful for. So, yeah. Okay. And then after that, we'll have, if you guys want to keep this going, we'll have like a ask me anything sort of thing. But I just wanted to say thank you. And I feel like every time we hit one of these milestones that I owe you guys a stream. I've got the live chat open, but I kind of get lazy with it because Megan is in the other room watching it. But I will try to keep my eye on it. I think Megan said she's going to just text me if you guys have questions. So we'll just see how that goes. Oh, right. But sorry, Megan texted and said she doesn't have anything to do with that. If it's uploaded on Patreon, then they automatically get access to it. I set you can set the tier, and you can have it so everybody on Patreon gets it, or just people in certain tiers get access to it. I set that paper to $5 and up. So anyway, okay. So, right. So Monday, we did that stream. Well, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was just anyway, Monday I did that stream talking about salt in Matthew 5 and Luke 14, which I thought was an interesting stream. It's fun is the wrong word, but interesting. It's more interesting when you come into something like that if you didn't see it on the Non Sequitur show. But it's interesting when you come into something like that without really having prepped an awful lot or knowing really what you're coming into, because you have to kind of do it on the fly, which is always interesting. Hey, we have 34 people watching. Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. If you don't mind hitting the like button, if you like the stream, that'd be awesome. Yeah, and share it if you think other people might want to watch this. So then, of course, the discussion with Aaron was fantastic, and I really think walking away from that, I thought to myself, that stream turned into less like the way that it felt to me. It turned from like a specifically disproving Mike Winger's positions, to sort of generally talking about the complexities of dealing with the biblical text, right? And particularly when you come up with things like prophecy, there are things that the text, that different texts are doing and things that they're not doing. And I think I think it became a discussion about that and the complexities of it. So I really thought it was great. I also want to say, I obviously I harbor no ill feelings against Mike Winger. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy. And honestly, I do this. Some of the things that I think he said in his video, maybe were just said quickly. Maybe they weren't thought through. They seemed sometimes it seemed a little not harsh, but a little harder than maybe it needed to be. But none of that's really relevant, because Aaron's obviously a very tough guy. And but I thought that from an academic standpoint, it's important to address issues with that I think that are big and that are important. And something like Ezekiel 26 in particular, I think is a really important issue. Not so much in like scholastic circles or academic circles or whatever, but again, if you can't read these languages and in the original, or you can't read these texts in the original language, and you don't understand some of these more, I don't know, specific aspects of ancient Near Eastern culture and linguistics, and you don't have the means to do that kind of research, like, I don't know, I feel like it's just important to get that sort of stuff out there to the general public. For example, I've had a lot of general training in the history of Egypt, but I don't have any linguistic training in Egyptian. We sort of were given the choice between taking Egyptian and taking Hebrew. And, of course, I had a bunch of Hebrew training, so I figured I'd just make that sharper. So, I didn't take any Egyptian, and so I can't read those texts. And really, when I think about some of these issues that are popular in Egyptology, that people in the field of Egyptology don't deal with at all, because they know what is fact and what's fiction. But people, even like me, that have a PhD in humanities in ancient Near East, even I don't deal with Egypt all the time. So I always turn to people like, Dr. Maggie Bryson, to say, hey, what is this issue? So I feel like it's similar here with something like Ezekiel 26 and the prophecy against Tyre. So, right. So I thought it went really well. So if you haven't seen it, please take a second, pop over to his channel and take a look. That was a lot of fun. This Friday, which is tomorrow already, I think it's all still set up, going on the Non Sequitur show, to have a discussion with members of the International Congregation of Lord Rael, which I think will be a lot of fun, honestly. And I understand they're bringing more than one or two people on. I think there's supposed to be 3 coming on, which is fantastic, right? I mean, first of all, it makes it even, right? Steve and Kyle and me, and 3 of them. I think that's fantastic. It should be a good discussion, and looking forward to it. So tune in for that. We have 41 people watching. Awesome. Thank you all very, very much. Happy Thanksgiving to you. All right. So what we're doing, in case you're just joining us, is we've hit 2,500 subscribers, and I am going to go ahead and read through the Babylonian Theodicy, so that we can all hear a story and say, at least my life's not like that. I should be very thankful for the life that I have. So, but before we do, Megan has texted me with a question from Theamachi. I'm trying to think of what that would mean specifically. It's obviously a mashup of Theos and something else. But anyway, I had a question. If Genesis is an etiological myth, would Abraham be considered less a historical figure and more a mythic progenitor, like Helen, progenitor of the Greeks? Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, and I think in the mainstream scholarship position, the evidence that we have for the patriarchs is limited to just not there. And so I think that generally speaking, scholars are going to say, the patriarchs, the Exodus story, these things are written. They might have like something like the Exodus might have a kernel of historical truth, right? But the biblical text, the way that it's represented, this is a mythological text that is describing it's legend at best, I would say, and probably more mythology. Trying to show trying to show where it is that Israel came from. What's their history in the land? This is really important in the ancient Near East to a people group. And so, being able to look back in your history and say, yeah, these are our fathers. This is where we came from. It's very important. So, yeah, good question. By the way, if you guys ask a question and you don't think I answer it to your liking, or you want me to talk about it some more or something, please feel free to write it. So, again, we are reading from Before the Muses, Benjamin Foster's book, which is a fantastic work. I highly recommend you get it. Not terribly expensive. I think Megan looked it up recently, but it's basically an anthology of Akkadian literature from third millennium down into the first millennium. So excellent resource. I'll go ahead and read the introduction that Foster gives, and then we'll read through the text. So the Babylonian Theodicy. The Theodicy takes the form of a debate between two friends on divine justice. The sufferer, a younger son without means, sees everywhere around him strength and wealth being equated with right and justice, while poverty is considered a crime. The gods take no notice of strict obedience to their rights and concede nothing to the serious seeker after understanding. Even injustice is of divine origin. As the debate proceeds, always with great courtesy and eloquence, the sufferer craves his friend's indulgence by acknowledging that his doubts about divine justice were merely fruits of his personal circumstances, and were themselves faults of the kind he has normally tried to avoid. He concludes by voicing, in effect, a challenge to his gods to take better care of him in the future. At least, mercy and a greater sense of divine responsibility are his only hope. The reader is left to judge whether or not he concludes with a vote of no confidence. So it's a really interesting text, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And as we read it, reflect and say, man, it's pretty rough. It's a good day. Thanksgiving's a good day to think, boy, I've got a lot to be thankful for in my life. So here we go. The sufferer. This is his speech. So it goes sufferer. He speaks a paragraph, and then the friend responds. O sage, come, let me speak to you. Let me recount to you. I, who have suffered greatly, let me always praise you. Where is one whose reflective capacity is as great as yours? Who is he whose knowledge could rival yours? Where is the counselor to whom I can tell of woe? I am without recourse. Heartache has come upon me. I was the youngest child when fate claimed my father. My mother who bore me departed to the land of no return. My father and mother left me, and with no one my guardian. So that's his, first response, or his first statement to his friend. His friend responds, "Considerate friend, what you tell is a sorrowful tale. My dear friend, you have let your mind harbor ill. You make your estimable discretion feeble-minded. You alter your bright expression to a scowl. Of course our fathers pay passage to go death's way. I too will cross the river of the dead, as is commanded from of old. When you survey teeming humankind altogether, the poor man's son advanced, someone helped him get rich. Who did favors for the sleek and wealthy? He who looks to his God has a protector. The humble man who reveres his goddess will garner wealth." If, as a side note, as we do this, I try to give some commentary. And Megan, if you are listening and you think I missed something, go ahead and text me and I'll read it out. But if you're ever thinking about counseling somebody that's lost their parents or lost a loved one, this is probably not the text to go to figure out what to say. So he says, my mother who bore me departed to the land of no return. She died, went to the netherworld. My father, met his fate. So, my parents died when I was young, and there was nobody left to protect me. And this guy's response is, of course our fathers pay passage to go death's way. Of course, everybody dies. Even I will. It's not a not a very comforting thing to say to somebody. Can you imagine if somebody came up and said, yeah, my dad just died? Well, of course, and everybody does. So not the most comforting thing to say. But he finishes up his statement here with he who looks to his God has a protector. In other words, if you stay reverent, if you seek your God, if you, as we're going to see here, perform the rites, do the rituals, do the things you're supposed to do, your personal God will take care of you. The gods, they take care of those that do right things. The sufferer responds, "My friend, your mind is a wellspring of depth unplumbed." And when you first read this, you think, boy, that's just got to be dripping with sarcasm. It probably isn't, but it just feels that way when you read it. "My friend, your mind is a wellspring of depth unplumbed, the upsurging swell of the ocean that brooks no inadequacy. To you, then, let me pose a question. Learn what I would say. Hearken to me, but for a moment. Hear my declaration. My body is shrouded. Craving wears me down. My assets have vanished. My resources dwindled. My energies have turned feeble. My prosperity is at a standstill. Moaning and woe have clouded my features. The grain of my meat is nowhere near satisfying me. Beer, the sustenance of humankind, is far from being enough. Can a happy life be a certainty? I wish I knew how that it might come about." So, starts off by saying, my parents have died when I was very young. And then he responds, of course, everybody dies. What was a big deal? He says, okay, point two, I've lost everything, right? Or my assets have vanished, right? I've lost so much. My prosperity is gone. In other words, I don't have anything, right? I don't have enough beer. I don't have enough food. Can a happy life be a certainty? By the way, if you're just joining us, happy Thanksgiving. It's great to have you guys here. We have 43 people watching. If you haven't liked the video, please do. If you feel like somebody else should be watching, share it out on Twitter. So thank you. It's good to have you guys here. So the friend responds, "My well thought out speech is the ultimate in good advice." Nice, humble guy. "But you make your well ordered insight sound like babble. You force to be scatterbrained, irrational. You render your choicest offerings without conviction." I feel like I hear this a lot now. You don't really mean, you don't have enough belief behind the things that you do or the things that you did. It's really interesting. Anyway, "As to your everlasting, unremitting desire, the foremost protection lies in prayer. You want to be protected? Pray. Stay with the gods. Stay in tune. The reconciled goddess returns to. The reconciled gods will take pity on the fool, the wrongdoer. Seek constantly after the rights of justice. Your mighty will surely show kindness, will surely grant mercy." For those of you that are just that haven't been on one of these sort of readings before, if there's a break in the text, which happens a lot in cuneiform, we pause for that break. I have a question. When was the Babylonian Theodicy written? Very good question. Probably in its original form, end of the second millennium, maybe late Kassite period, right around 1000. Right, we have copies from the first millennium, Ashurbanipal's library, and those sorts of things. And it actually goes very late, I think, down into the Parthian period. But yeah, probably around 1000, late Kassite period. They look at the lexical items. They look at the way that I think I just turned Alexa on by saying lexical items. Sorry. Turn off, Alexa. Or never mind, Alexa. I never know what to say to her. It, her, I love that thing. It's a little echo or dot or something, spot. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, I use it for an alarm clock. It's really cool. Also, you can talk to people in the other room. Sorry. Anyway, that was lame. Okay, so, right. The sufferer responds, I bow down before you, my comrade. They're so kind to each other. I apprehend your wisdom. What you say, come, let me tell you. The onager, the wild ass that had its fill of wild grass, did it carefully carry out a god's intentions? A savage lion that devoured the choicest meat, did it bring its offerings to appease a goddess's anger? In other words, these animals out here that are living it up, doing well, they're not performing any rites. Why are they doing well? There can't be this correlation, he's saying, between prosperity and doing right. And again, you see a lot of overlap here in ideas, right, with the Book of Job. The parvenu, who multiplies his wealth, did he weigh out precious gold to the mother goddess for a family? Have I withheld my offerings? I prayed to my God. I said the blessing over the regular sacrifice to my goddess. So he's saying, look, I do this. I'm reverent. I obey all the rites. And the friend responds, "O date palm, wealth-giving tree, my precious brother, perfect in all wisdom, O gem of wisdom, you are a mere child. The purpose of the gods is remote as the netherworld." And this is sort of a play. I'd actually like to look at the Akkadian here again. We translated this a long time ago. By the way, we have 50 people watching. Sorry, and I just got another text. Milwaukee Atheist, is there anything in Akkadian or Babylonian text that portray the sun stopping when war comes upon the people, like Joshua and the sun stopping, or Helios stopping his chariot for the birth of Athena? I can't think of anything. Shamash, does his track. But let me look. That's a good question. Megan, if you know of anything. Oh, she said it there. Not as far as I know, but I've passed that on to Josh. Well, yeah, I can't think of anything, but I'll take a look and see. If you're just joining us, we're reading through the Babylonian Theodicy so that we can see how awful this guy's life is and say, we should really be giving thanks for our lives today. Also because we hit 2,500 subscribers. Okay, you are a mere child. The purpose of the gods is remote as the netherworld. Consider that magnificent wild ass on the plain. You brought up a wild ass. He didn't do anything like perform rites or to get what he has. Well, consider that wild ass on the plain. The arrow will gash that headstrong trampler. Come, look at that lion you called to mind, the enemy of livestock. For the atrocity that lion committed, the pit yawns for him. The well-heeled parvenu who treasured up possessions, a king will put him to the flames before his time. In other words, as you probably picked up on, the sufferer gives 3 examples, right? There's a wild ass. He didn't do anything to please the gods. He didn't perform a sacrifice or a rite or something to get his belly full. Same thing with the lion. He's got this choice kill. He didn't do anything to get that, like a rite. And the same thing with the parvenu here, who's treasured up his possessions. In other words, these people didn't do things for the gods to get these things. And the response of the friend is, well, now wait a minute. That onager is going to get killed, right? The lion, the pit, death yawns for him, right? It's going to get killed. And this well-heeled parvenu who treasured up possessions, a king will put him to the flames before his time. So these people, you think they're doing really well, but they're actually not, right? They're not doing that hot. Would you wish to go the way these have gone? Seek after lasting reward to your God. It's interesting the way this thing sort of plays out. And because I feel like some of these things are similar to some responses that you might get if you have a conversation with with a Christian, for example. And of course, I've had these conversations myself. Um, I'm really sorry. I've got to switch to the iPad. My left arm is starting to lock up a little bit, so and I can't hold that book anymore. Sorry, Megan. Are there other questions I can probably, while I'm finding the PDF, I can probably answer something. Sorry, everybody. It does this from time to time, and it kind of creeps up on me. I don't remember if I took my medicine this morning. Foster.
Hey, honey, do you need help?
No, I think I'm okay. I just gotta, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, everybody. That actually hasn't happened in a little while. I haven't worked out.
Keep using it.
That's what it is. I haven't worked out this week. Ugh. What page was it? 9 something. Okay. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay. I think I'm here. Right. What line were we on? Okay. Right. So he says, you don't want to go this way. You want to worship your God. You want to stay with him. In other words, stay reverent, don't turn your back on the gods. It's a foolish move, right? Okay. Okay. The sufferer responds, your reasoning is a cool breeze, a breath of fresh air for humankind. Most particular friend, your advice is excellent. Let me put but one matter before you. Those who seek not after a god can go the road of favor. Those who pray to a goddess have grown poor and destitute. Indeed, in my mouth I tried to find out the will of my God. Sorry, not in my mouth. Sorry. In my youth. It's tough to see. I tried to find out the will of my God. With prayer and supplication, I besought my goddess. I bore a yoke of profitless servitude. My God decreed for me poverty instead of wealth. A cripple rises above me. A fool is ahead of me. Rogues are in the ascendant. I am demoted. In other words, look, from my youth, I've done this, right? I mean, look, this is the text, the problem of evil, right? That's what this is. As you guys, I'm sure, well know. What the hell was I saying? Sorry. Let me just look back here. Right. So he says, I've done all these good things from the beginning, but yet things have gone bad for me. It's not like I'm a sinner, right? You can picture Job in this. His friends are telling him, oh, the sinful things. No, I've been a good boy, right? I've done all the rights. I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do, and yet these things still happen to me. And you can see it in life. He says, those that do not seek after God go the road of favor. Right? Fools are in front of me. Cripples rise above me. Right? It's not fair. Right? And there's no connection that I can see, he's saying, between me serving my personal God or the gods and me having prosperity and success. The friend responds, "Oh, just knowledgeable one, your logic is perverse. You have cast off justice. You have scorned divine design. In your emotional state, you have an urge to disregard divine ordinances." You ever hear this? I hear this now as an agnostic actually a lot. It's a foolish thing for you to stop believing the way that you believed in the past. And so that's the same thing he's saying here. It's foolish. Don't go disregarding the divine ordinances. Sound rules of your goddess, probably something like follow the sound rules of your goddess. The strategy of a god is as remote as innermost heaven. The command of a goddess cannot be drawn out. Teeming humanity well understands trouble. And there's a break of some significance. But you've heard this. You've heard this now. He says nobody can, plumb the depths or like understand the wisdom of the gods is like as deep as the netherworld. And here The strategy of a god is remote as innermost heaven. You can't. This is a sort of a trope that you find in the ancient Near East. You're going to see it very clearly in the next text that we're going to read. By the way, if you're just joining us, happy Thanksgiving. Sorry about my arm; it looks kind of goofy. Sorry, but we are reading the Babylonian Theodicy, and so that we can be thankful for what we have. I thought that was just appropriate, and thank you for getting us to 2,500 subscribers. Okay, so the sufferer responds. There's a break, and the sufferer. So actually, that was. It's actually a pretty significant break. So we've gone from paragraph 8. It's skipping down to paragraph 13. So we've had some interaction between these two. The sufferer says, "I will forsake home. I will crave no property. I will ignore my God's regulations. I will trample on his rights. I will slaughter a calf. I will the food. I will go on the road. I will learn my way around distant places. I will open a well. I will let loose a flood. I will roam about the far outdoors like a bandit. I will stave off hunger by forcing entry into one house after another. I will prowl the streets, casting about, ravenous. Like a beggar I will inside. Good fortune lies afar off." So again, it's coming back from a break, but now he's turned to saying, all right, I'll do all this bad stuff instead, right? I've done good. Now I'm going to do bad. And the friend responds, and it's sort of broken. "My friend, you have resolved upon the transactions of humankind, which you had no urge to, are in your mind. Your discretion has forsaken you." And then it's broken. And 4 lines are lost to the sufferer's next response. "Daughter says unjust words to her mother. The fowler who casts his net is fallen into it. All in all, which one will find profit? Many are the wild creatures that, which among them has gotten? Shall I seek son and daughter? Shall I not leave behind what I find?" The friend responds. It's kind of broken. Okay, now it picks up a little bit. We're in paragraph 17. Sorry about the break there. Okay. The sufferer. "The son of a king is clad in rags. The son of the destitute and naked is dressed in fine raiment. The maltster can pay in finest gold, while he who counted red gold shoulders a debt." In other words, things are opposite, right? It's the whole point of this thing. Is things that should be are not, and the things that are not, that shouldn't be, are. "He who made do with vegetables sates himself at a princely banquet, while the son of the eminent and wealthy has only carob to eat. The man of substance is fallen, his income is removed." And then there's a broken bit. And the friend responds, "You have let your subtle mind wander. You have overthrown wisdom. You have spurned propriety. You have besmirched every code. Far will be the workman's basket from him who is established as a person of importance. He is called a scholar. He is well served. He gets what he wants. Follow in the way of a god. Observe his rights." Notice how it always comes back to that. There's this response that sort of addresses the issue. And then it ends with stick to the gods, right? Observe their rights. Don't be a fool. Okay. The friend responds. So there's a gap, and then the friend speaks again. So this is going to be in response to a paragraph that we don't have from the sufferer. "As for the rascal whose goodwill you wanted, the of his feet will soon disappear. The godless swindler who acquires wealth, a deadly weapon is in pursuit of him. Unless you serve the will of a god, what will be your profit? He who bears a god's yoke will never want for food, though it may be meager. Seek after the favorable breeze of the gods. What you lost for a year, you will recoup in a moment." So you see here this dichotomy, the back and forth of somebody who's really doubting, right? And saying, hey, I grew up thinking that the way to have success and the way to be blessed is probably a good modern word to use, is to serve the gods, right? To do the correct rites, to offer the correct sacrifices. In other words, to follow the religious course, right? That I've been trained in. And yet here I am, maybe in my 20s. Who knows? I mean, equivalent maybe to our 20s, 18 to 22 or something. For us, when you have that sort of doubting phase, I'm looking around and going, "Wait a second, this doesn't fit, right? Nothing's panning out here the way that it's supposed to." And the friend always comes back and says, "Whoa, um, don't be foolish. You're misunderstanding this. You're letting your mind wander. You're thinking foolish things. The true key to happiness and to success is to keep serving the gods. Keep serving the gods. That's how you get ahead. That's how you have success. Anything else is foolishness." The Sufferer, paragraph 23. "I have looked around in society. Indications are the contrary. God does not block the progress of a demon. A father hauls a boat up a channel while his firstborn sprawls in a bed. The eldest son makes his way like a lion. The second son is content to drive a donkey. The heir struts the street like a peddler. The younger son makes provision for the destitute. What has it profited me that I knelt before my God? It is I who must now bow before my inferior. The riffraff despise me as much as the rich and the proud." In other words, I call BS, right? You're saying that the way to succeed, the way to have a good life, the way to get ahead is to serve the gods, and yet I don't see it. It's not playing out here in my life. All right, so we have another question. Milwaukee Atheist, "Do you have a copy of the Iliad? I want to do a Thanksgiving reading later tonight, and I was wondering if you wanted to join in. Perhaps you're exhausted from reading today already. Let me see how I feel at the end of the stream." Megan, do we have a copy of the Iliad? I'm trying to remember. I used to. I'm trying to remember if we still have it. Anyway, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, let me see how I feel. This arm thing is starting to bother me. Oh gosh. Sorry. Super chats. I can see very clearly. Thank you. 0132132 gave a $10.01 super chat. Thank you very, very much. Just pop in to demand that you enjoy your turkey day. Thank you very much. We're if you're just joining us, we didn't hear. We were supposed to go up to visit my mother and my stepfather and my sister. And my sister is like this magnificent chef, trained in French culinary cuisine, and she's now going to law school, which is really cool. Anyway, so she was going to cook Thanksgiving dinner, and I was really looking forward to it. But Megan and Oliver fell sick, and so we're kind of stuck here. We were going to go. I was going to drive out to this restaurant, this Japanese restaurant called Asahi, and get some dinner. And I didn't really put two and two together that maybe they wouldn't be open on Thanksgiving, and it turns out that they're not. So I think Giant maybe is open until 5, so maybe I'll run out and get some sushi or something. Megan doesn't seem to be too terribly hungry. Anyway, sorry. Thank you for the super chat and for demanding that we enjoy our turkey day. We will. I'm enjoying it. I mean, I've been looking forward to this actually all day since I scheduled it. So thank you guys for being here. We have 46 people watching. You guys are awesome. Okay, the friend responds. Adept scholar, master of erudition, you blaspheme in the anguish of your thoughts. Divine purpose is as remote as innermost heaven. It is too difficult to understand. People cannot understand it. Among all creatures, the birth goddess formed. Why should offspring be completely unmatched? The cow's first calf is inferior. Her subsequent offspring is twice as big. The first child is born a weakling. The second is called a capable warrior. Even if one tries to apprehend divine intention, people cannot understand it. You ever hear that? I mean, I used to say it a lot, right? And I really enjoy actually seeing this pattern again, because when I have discussions with people that are like, let me think, fundamentalist Christians that may be, let's say, Calvinists, for example. Again, not saying anything bad, but this is a very common thing that you see. And you start to bring up, or I watch people have conversations with them, and they start to bring up things like evil in the world. Always the first response is, well, now you don't understand the text, right? You're thinking incorrectly about that. And so let me try to correct the text and your understanding of it. But then if it's clear that the person is pressing forward and saying, no, this is actually the correct reading of the text or understanding of it, and they can't disprove that, then the conversation will usually turn to, you know what, we can't comprehend the mind of God, right? You just have to trust. You just have to believe. And I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but I think that it's wise to do what the sufferer is doing here and to say, all right, what really does happen, right? And should that be a catalyst to look maybe deeper into this, into what I believe, into what I have grown up believing? I think that's really good and really important, but it's just interesting that you see the same sort of progression here. So the sufferer response: pay attention, my friend. Learn my next parry. Consider the well-chosen diction of my speech. They extol the words of an important man who has accomplished in murder. They denigrate the powerless who has committed no crime. They esteem truthful the wicked, to whom truth is abhorrent. They reject the truthful man who heeds the will of God. They fill the oppressor's strong room with refined gold. They empty the beggar's larder of his provisions. They shore up the tyrant whose all is crime. They ruin the weak. They oppress the powerless. And as for me, without means, a parvenu harasses me. Again, it's just more of the same. Wrong is right, right is wrong, right? In the way that I've learned this. The friend response: Enlil, king of the gods, who created teeming humankind. Majestic Ea, who pinched off their clay. The queen who fashioned them, mistress Mami. Gave twisted words to the human race. They endowed them in perpetuity with lies and falsehood. This is very difficult, right? I mean, if you're thinking about this from a religious standpoint, and trying to understand, I mean, they endowed them in perpetuity with lies and falsehood, giving twisted words to the human race. These are things from a divine source that seem really strange. Solemnly, they speak well of a rich man. He's the king, they say. He has much wealth. They malign a poor man as a thief. They lavish mischief upon him. They conspire to kill him. They make him suffer evil, every evil, because he has no wherewithal. They bring him to a horrible end. They snuff him out like an ember. So this is interesting. By the way, I'm going to pause for just a second. We have a super chat from, I always feel like I'm going to mispronounce this, Omagaya. $13. Thank you so much. He says, the gods have always worked in mysterious ways. Indeed. It's I don't want to say it's a catch-all phrase, but it's sort of, when you have a particular belief, when you have a theological structure that you have to hold, right, that you've sort of set in stone, there are times that you're backed into a corner and you end up having to say, I don't understand. God just works in mysterious ways. And I think it's a good thing to question that, like the sufferer is doing here. So here, what we see in the friend's response is, it seems like he's turned, in a sense, right? He's understanding and sympathizing finally. He says, yeah, you know what? It seems like what you're saying is right. And the sufferer responds to that. And here we're at the end of the text. You are sympathetic, my friend. Be considerate of my misfortune. Help me see my distress. You should be cognizant of it. Though I am humble, learned, supplicant, I have not seen help or succor for an instant. I would pass obtrusively through the streets of my city. My voice was not raised. I kept my speaking low. I did not hold my head high. I would look at the ground. I was not given to servile praise among my associates. Right. So he's just reiterating his position here at the end. But listen to the last 3 lines. This sort of wraps up the text. May the God who has cast me off grant help. May the goddess who has forsaken me take pity. The shepherd Shamash will pasture people as a god should. So I find it really interesting here, and of course, I'm not the first person to notice this. Scholars have seen this for some time now, and that is that this sufferer friend, back and forth has always been, gods are bad, life is bad. It's not the way it's supposed to be. The friend responding, no, you don't understand. The gods are, the way to live well is it. But at the end, it reverses a bit, right? The friend sort of agrees, and then at the very end, the sufferer says, he calls upon the gods, but to help him, to be good to him, but almost in a believing way, right? May the gods do this. May Shamash. Sorry, I saw a text from Megan, but the gods should, deliver me, should work with me, but it's almost in a believing way. Okay, sorry, just a text from Tara. Oh, Megan, sorry. Okay. One thing to point out here that's really interesting about this poem is that it is an acrostic, which is really cool because it's a very early acrostic. And so I'll just read Foster here. He says, with a constructive rhythmic scheme of 4 units to the line, the author begins each 10-line stanza with the same syllable. The beginnings of each stanza read vertically form an acrostic that reads, I, Sago Ki Na Mubib, am adorant of God and King, which is pretty cool, right? Because it's showing that the sufferer who's writing this thing ostensibly is he's a pious, reverent, I can't think of the word. Follower is not the right word that I'm thinking of. Anyway, worshiper of both the God and the King. And so, I'd like to do I'd actually like to do a little reading on this more, but I suspect it has something to do with, even though this is a Theodicy and I'm showing that I complain and that I'm doubting, in reality, this acrostic says I'm actually really reverent, right? So don't doubt that I'm really reverent. Okay. We have another super chat from Enkidu 5, $5. Thank you very much. He says, got to go to my son's house to be fed. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for a bit. Thank you very much. Thank you guys all for the super chats. It's really fantastic of you. Okay. Are there questions that while I get to the next text? Just look. I really appreciate you guys being here. Wow, we have 45 still viewing. Thank you very much. If you haven't liked the stream and you'd like to do that, please do so. I only say this often because I know when I watch people's like Skylar, I'll go watch something on Skylar's channel and I just don't think to click the like button, right? So that's one of the reasons that that I say it, because when somebody in the chat says, "Hey, we only have 13 likes, let's get that number up," it's like, oh yeah, let me go click that like button. So, okay, if you're just joining us, happy Thanksgiving. It's really great to have you here. And all right, I'll go ahead and move on to the Dialogue of Pessimism. A really fun text. By the way, after this, we're going to have like an AMA. If everybody's interested in doing that, so if you do have questions, go ahead and get them in, and I'll either answer them as we go through the stream or afterwards. And I've thought about doing this. I have the ability to like invite people in to the stream. I don't know if that's something that would be useful. I don't know. Anyway, if you think that's a good idea, let Megan know. We'll see if we should do that. Okay. The Dialogue of Pessimism. It's a really fun text. This satirical dialogue sets a master proposing various undertakings, for which his servant offers facile encouragements. When the master changes his mind and asserts the opposite, the servant is equally ready with facile discouragements. This is the definition. If you want, like probably the earliest yes man, this is it. The master lapses into despair at the futility of life, and when he finally asks what the best course for him to follow might be, the slave suggests suicide. It's and he says here, whether one reads the mood of this text as somber and lighthearted, it has a clear universal appeal and is original and is an original and effective composition. Oh, another super chat, Vibrantly Brantley, $2. Thank you very much. I'm not sending a super chat this stream. Sorry. Nice. Thank you very much. Okay, by the way, this was one of my favorite texts. I'd say it's like just under the Poor Man of Nippur, translating through when I was in reading text from Megan. All right, very good. So let me read this, and then if you guys have like some idea that you'd like to talk about live or something, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Okay. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. Quickly, get me the chariot and hitch it up for me so I can drive to the palace. Drive, master, drive. It will bring you where you want to go. The others will be outclassed. The prince will pay attention to you. No, servant, I will certainly not drive to the palace. Do not drive, master, do not drive. The prince will send you off on a mission. He will send you on a journey that you do not know. He will expose you to discomfort day and night. So you see the way this works. The master says, hey, servant, go do this. Yes, master, yes, go do that. And here are great reasons why you should do it. And he says, nah, on second thought, I'm not going to do that. Don't do it, master. Don't do it. Here are all the reasons you shouldn't. It's great. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. Quickly bring me water to wash my hands. Give it to me so I can dine. Dine, master, dine. Regular dining expands the inner self. He who eats well is his own god. Shamash goes with him whose hands are washed. No, servant, I will certainly not dine. Do not dine, master, do not dine. Hunger, then eating. Thirst, then drinking. This is what agrees with a man. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. Quickly, get me the chariot and hitch it up so I can drive to the open country. Drive, master, drive. The roaming man has a full stomach. The roving dog cracks open the bone. The roaming bird will find a nesting place. The wandering wild ram has all the grass he wants. No, servant, I will certainly not drive to the open country. Do not drive, master, do not drive. The roaming man loses his reason. The roving dog breaks his teeth. The roaming bird puts his home in the wall, and the wandering ass has to live in the open. Sorry, we've got another super chat. Akiosaris, thank you, $2. I'm not sending any super chats either. You guys are the best. Thank you. All right. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. I am going to make a household and have a son. Do it, master, do it. Probably the first, I can't think of the word. Slang, do it. Probably not. Anyway, okay, that wasn't funny. The man who makes a household and is broken. No, I will certainly not make a household. Do not make a household. The one who follows such a course has broken up his father's household. He has gone in a door called the noose. The man with a wife and child is credulous, 2/3 a fool. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. I will do something dishonest. So do it, master, do it. Who will give you anything so you can fill your stomach? No, servant, I will certainly not do something dishonest. Do not do it, master, do not do it. The man who does something dishonest is executed or skinned alive, or blinded and apprehended, or jailed. Oh, Milwaukee Atheist super chat, $2. You'll find me dead before I send a super chat. You guys are so cool. Thank you. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. I will fall in love with a woman. So fall in love, master, fall in love. The man who falls in love with a woman forgets sorrow and care. Isn't it true? No, servant, I will certainly not fall in love with a woman. Do not fall in love, master, do not fall in love. A woman is a pitfall, a hole, a ditch. A woman is a sharp iron dagger that slashes a man's throat. I just want to say that I do not agree with the servant's opinion here. Megan, just want to let you know that I don't agree. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. Quickly bring me water to wash my hands. Give it to me so I can sacrifice to my God. Sacrifice, master, sacrifice. The man who sacrifices to his God makes a satisfying transaction. He makes loan upon loan. No, servant, I will certainly not sacrifice to my God. Nobody saw that coming. Do not sacrifice, master. Do not sacrifice. You will train your God to follow you around like a dog. He will require of you rights or a magic figurine or what you have. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. I will make loans. So make them, master, make them. The man who makes loans, his grain is still his grain, while his interest is profit. No, servant, I will certainly not make loans. Do not make them, master, do not make them. Loaning is sweet as falling in love. Oh, gosh. Getting back as painful as giving birth. They will consume your grain, be always abusing you, and finally they will swindle you out of the interest of your grain. We are almost done. Last two. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. I will do a good deed for my country. So do it, master, do it. The man who does a good deed for his country, his good deed rests in Marduk's basket. No, servant, I will certainly not do a good deed for my country. Do not do it, master, do not do it. Go up on the ancient, this is a really cool one. Go up on the ancient ruin heaps and walk around. Look at the skulls of the lowly and the great. Which was a doer of evil and which was a doer of good deeds? In other words, I mean, obviously you can tell. Afterwards, who's going to remember what you've done, right? Look at the skulls. Can't tell by looking at the skull if he was a good guy or a bad guy. All right, last one. This is a cool one too. Servant, listen to me. Yes, master, yes. What then is good? The servant says, to break my neck and your neck and throw us in the river is good. And actually it's debated who says what here. Who is so tall as to reach heaven? Who is so broad as to encompass the netherworld? No, servant, I will kill you and let you go first. The servant responds, then my master will certainly not outlive me even 3 days. In other words, buddy, you need me, all right? And which is clear. So you should commit suicide, right? Kill us both and throw us in. And he says, nah, you know what? I'll kill you and let you go first. He says, you wouldn't outlive me 3 days. So that's a pretty fun text. So I guess having read those two, I just you think about the Theodicy and the sufferer and all the ills that he's talking about, and you hear this confusion and back and forth of this master and his servant, and you think, man, their lives are complicated, and they had, the sufferer, of course, was really had a bad time, and I don't know. I read that this morning and thought, I'm really thankful for the life that I have. I have a wonderful family. I have a wonderful job. And I have this cool YouTube channel that just did 2,500 subscribers today. So Megan and I are really excited. You guys are absolutely fantastic. And I'm thankful we have 41 people watching on Thanksgiving. I just think that's really cool. And several people have given super chats, which is just, I don't know, far more than Megan and I ever expect. So I really appreciate that. You guys are fantastic. Okay. So I'm totally game. How long have we been going? Just over an hour. So I'm totally game for whatever. So sorry, Megan has messaged me a couple of times. Oh, we have some questions. Sorry. Or a question on Sky. Omagaya, did I say that right? Sorry. Wow. Yeah, we did. 2,600 or 20. Sorry, Megan just texted and said we had 2,600. We were 2,600 before the stream started, I think. Oh, wait, 26 or 27? Sorry. 2654. It's crazy. It's crazy. You guys are awesome. Just unbelievable. Sorry. So on Skylar's channel, you mentioned the Cain and Abel story had a Mesopotamian parallel. A few years back, I read on Wiki that it was the story of the brothers Winter and Summer. Is that the one? I don't remember mentioning that. I'm not saying that I didn't, because MS is dope and I can't remember things that I say anymore. Cain and Abel story. So Winter and Summer is a debate. Sumerian text. And there are a dispute, a debate text. There are these where you have two sometimes inanimate objects arguing with one another about who is better. And it's a debate that's ultimately decided. The winner is decided by a deity. And so, yeah, I don't Winter and Summer. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know if I would. I have to think about that. But sorry, I don't remember saying that. But that, again, that doesn't mean that I didn't say it. Maybe I'd come across something. Sorry. If you want, send me an email and I'll look into it. Right. So I asked. Sorry, Megan. Is it a good idea to bring somebody in? Do we have questions? I could read the Ezekiel 26 paper to you guys, I guess. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of things that we could do, because I'm looking in the side chat and seeing if there's a sorry, Megan said it's up to me. Yeah, I that's cool. Is there anybody, like, you guys have an idea of what we could do if somebody came in? Is there somebody that wants to? I don't know. Sorry, when Skylar does this, there's always somebody out in the chat that wants to debate him. Always, right? Some a theist out there that wants to come in and debate with him. But I don't feel like people necessarily want to debate me. Theomiki wanted to come in. Yeah, you definitely can. Any idea what we'd talk about? Lieutenant Galloway sent a super chat. $1.99. Thank you. Do not send super chats, Master. Do not do it. That's incredible.
Someone was listening.
That was amazing.
Do you want me to send
yeah. Sorry. Did you guys talk about like what I might?
He just said he'd like to come in and talk to you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's great. I mean, if people just guys, I can just open this up. You guys can come in and chat with us. That's fine.
No.
Oh.
If they want to come in, they need to email me or tell me.
Oh no, but that's what I mean. Like we could. Yes.
I don't want to put a link out.
No, don't put a link out there. We'd.
Especially because we just got accused of being Nazis. So,
we were accused of being Nazis.
I'll follow you later.
Oh, all right. A Nazi. Wow. Well, there you go. Let me just look at this. Now I'm interested in why I'm a Nazi. Let's see. Okay. I enjoy coming in for a bit. I have some ideas about biblical parallels. I tell you what, Megan, I leave this up to you. I don't care. I mean, if you want to send out links, I'm happy to talk to anybody that's out there. But you've been following along in the chat, so you have a much better idea about this. CD Cord has a CD Horde is has a question. What cultural elements were transmitted from Akkadians to present day?
Sorry, I think I have to do it from here.
Oh.
On the computer.
Oh, okay. Oh, I can probably. Well, yeah. Sorry. You can send the link to you.
Sorry, everyone.
No. What's great is even though Megan's voice is gone or hoarse, it's still really, really sexy.
Thank you.
I don't know how you do that.
Neither do I. I'm not sure sexy is the word I'd use.
It's the word I'm using.
Yeah, well.
Was I saying something?
Probably interrupted you.
So,
where did it go?
Sorry, I'm just looking through this. It's really hard to pick up the chat in the middle.
There you
go. Oh, very good. All right, we got 46 viewers still rolling with us here. So thank you guys very much. If you haven't liked the stream, please do so. If you feel like you want to share it out on Twitter or wherever else people send things out. I really should learn that. I see here. Direct message a link. Don't put it in the public. Yeah, I think that's what I think she just emailed it to herself. So she's gonna email it out from the other computer. All right, I got another text. Sorry, you asked a question about cultural elements from the Akkadians. Yeah, well, there's a lot actually. So Western civilization is sort of in broad strokes, and of course in many specifics, brought down from Mesopotamia, the land of firsts. And actually, a good book to sort of get a general overview of that sort of thing is Kramer's book. What in the world is the name of it? I don't remember. But anyway, that's not very helpful, is it? Yeah, there's a book and something about the Sumerians. I can't remember, but so Sumerian and Akkadian culture sort of meshed probably in the late third millennium, maybe even mid third millennium. And so, looking at the biblical text, for example, let's just talk about the biblical text and how, of course, that's been transmitted down to us. um, the Akkadian texts, Sumerian affected the Akkadian text. The Akkadian text, of course, strongly influenced the Bible and the biblical text. So, and of course, the Bible has. I mean, you well know how the Bible has affected us today. So, yeah, I mean, you think about the cultural norms that we have today simply because the Bible has them. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Right. So if you have questions, and again, I won't do this for too long. If there are people that are interested in coming in, that's fantastic. If Megan, if you think that's a good idea. If not, sorry, I don't want to prolong this later, but I just want to make myself available. Oh, got somebody coming in. Do I have to do something? Can you hear me? Or do I have to broadcast you or something?
Hey.
Yeah, there you are. Hey.
What's
How
up?
are you?
All right. Big fan of your channel. I like it.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to have you.
Like history. Sorry, my hair is. I have wake up hair. So.
No, you're good. So how do you pronounce your name?
So you could just call me V, but my channel is called Theomaki.
Theomaki. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's based on the title of Tim Whitmarsh's book, Battling the Gods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
very good.
Yeah.
Well, you got something you wanna talk about?
Actually, I did. Would you say when it comes to the parallels that we see with biblical texts and Mesopotamian texts in general, would you say it's fair that one thing you would want to do is just tell people that are like skeptics of this stuff that the Bible isn't some giant conspiratorial ripoff? It's just a genre. It's one series of books in a genre of books in a culture that was making books like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and this is one of the things that I think we all have to be very careful about when we think about the ancient world and ancient texts. And that is that, and Megan talks about this actually a lot, there are ideas that we have today that they wouldn't have had back then. Authorship, for example, it wasn't something that was considered back then. So, even the idea of ripping something off isn't really something that would have been relevant to them, or even I think thought of. But maybe more to your point, the ancient Near East. Let's think about something in particular that maybe we don't talk about a lot, and that is the way that the Bible portrays cosmic geography. Right, so having a firmament up there with the stars in it. Having water above the firmament, having a flat earth, probably circular, with pillars underneath of it, right? Water underneath of it. This is part of an ancient Near Eastern cosmic geography. So, people will try to fight, I would say, like people that take a literal, maybe overly literal, scientific approach to the text. Let me think. I don't know this. I suspect Hugh Ross would fall into that category. I haven't heard him talk about cosmic geography, but just thinking about him, I suspect that he would try to argue. I shouldn't say that because I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to paint him with a brush I shouldn't paint him with. Anyway, if somebody were to argue, well, wait a minute. The Bible can't say that the earth was flat because, the Bible has to be completely scientifically accurate. My response would be that's having the text do something it wasn't intended to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think in any way that we should like lambast, for example, Isaiah, whoever wrote First and Second Isaiah and Third. For making statements about the heavens being stretched out like a tent, because number one, that's a general ancient Near Eastern idea. It's not like they're stealing it from them. It's just an ancient Near Eastern idea. There are instances when I would say, and then I promise I'll be quiet and let you talk. There are instances that I would say that there is borrowing, right? It's not ripping off. Because again, I don't think they thought that way. It's borrowing more for theological reasons as like a theological response. Hey, Milwaukee atheists.
Hello.
How you doing, man? But I would say something like something that we see in the borrowing of the Enuma Elish, which went from its Babylonian source up to its Assyrian source. Everybody knew that when the Assyrians conquered and brought the Enuma Elish up to the north and rewrote that tablet, whoever read that tablet or heard that tablet knew that this was the Enuma Elish that was read every year at New Year's during that whole ritual, and that they were very obviously replacing the name Marduk, the Babylonian god, with the name Asher, the Assyrian god. So like the idea that it would be some secret, like they're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, trying to rip them off, it's ridiculous. Of course they weren't. They did it specifically for a theological purpose, and I think that was evident. I think we have to take that sort of stuff into account when we see borrowing in the Old Testament text.
I have to resend the link.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Working. You keep talking.
Lawrence, how are you?
Megan.
I'm doing well. Kind of exhausted, school and stuff, but I'm doing well.
I'll bet. What's up? How's your Thanksgiving going?
Well, I'm having breakfast. So, because I got up pretty late. But I usually don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm doing Friendsgiving tomorrow.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that's gonna be nice. But I had something neat that I found. So you were talking earlier about, I think somebody asked in the chat about parallels for Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it. There might be more, but I found this specific one. This is from Old Testament Parallels by Victor H. Matthews and Don C. Benjamin. And it's the story of Anubis and Bata. And I want to make this point clear. Like you were talking about earlier, with motifs just kind of being part of the culture back then, and it's not a direct ripoff. So we can't say that the writers of the Bible stole this idea. It's just kind of storytelling motif that they had in the ancient Near East. So this one, let's see. I'm just gonna start reading off here, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Once there were two brothers. Anubis was the older, Bata was the younger. Anubis was a villager who was married and owned his own house. Bata was under the care of his brother and lived with him like a son. In return for living in the household of Anubis and wearing the clothes that Anubis gave him, Bata herded the cattle of Anubis, plowed his fields, tended his crops, and brought in his harvests. Bata was young, but he was righteous and blameless. So the divine assembly of Egypt often let him use divine power. Every day after Bata finished grazing the cattle, he headed back to the village, loaded down with vegetables, milk, and firewood, everything he needed to prepare supper for Anubis and his wife. After supper, Bata went out to the barn to sleep with the cattle. Every morning, Bata got up, cooked breakfast for Anubis and his wife, and then packed a meal to eat at noon. Then Bata drove the cattle out into the pasture to graze. As he walked with the cattle, the cattle would tell him, the grass in this pasture is excellent. Bata would listen to the cattle and drive them to whatever pasture they wanted to graze. Consequently, Anubis's cattle became prime livestock, calving twice as often as the livestock from any other village. Now, when it was time to plow, Anubis told Bata, "Tomorrow is the first day of plowing. Be sure the oxen are ready to be yoked and the seed is ready to be planted. First thing in the morning." The younger brother did everything his older brother told him to do. At the break of dawn, Anubis and Bata hurried to the fields with their seed in order to start plowing. They were delighted with how well the work was going. Some days later, they ran short of seed, so Anubis sent his younger brother to the village to get more. When Bata got to the house, the wife of Anubis was sitting there combing her hair. Bata said to her, "I need seed for the field. My older brother is waiting for me. Hurry up." Then she said to him, Go and open the bin and take what you want. I am not finished combing my hair. Bata went to the barn, took a large jar, and filled it with barley and emmer seed, and hoisted the jar on his shoulder. When the wife of Anubis saw Bata, she said seductively, "How much seed are you carrying?" Bata naively answered, 3 measures of emmer, 2 measures of barley, 5 in all. But the wife of Anubis continued, "You are certainly strong. Every day I notice your bulging muscles," to convince Bata to make love to her. The wife of Anubis jumped up and threw her arms around him. "Sleep with me just this once, and I will sew some new clothes for you," she pleaded. Bata became furious as a leopard at the very thought of sleeping with his brother's wife. His anger terrified her. He shouted at her, "You and your husband are like a mother and father to me, because he was older than I. He reared me. How can you possibly suggest I commit a crime like this against him? Nonetheless, if you promise never to proposition me like this, I won't tell anyone what you said." And just a second, guys, I got to do something. I'll get back to the story, but it's obviously going to culminate in something. So I'll be right back.
But
Go ahead, V.
it's just so funny, watching your channel, realizing that people in the past weren't modest, all, it's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that when we look at this, what we're calling here intertextuality, right? This is the word that I think we need to start using in these types of discussions, is the movement, the interaction between texts, so intertextuality. And when you look at that, it can be very precise and intentional. Taking from a particular story and changing something very particular about it, keeping it in that same genre and doing it with great intent. And you can say, I think, with some security, this is a direct borrowing, right? They're intentionally borrowing this. This isn't just a general motif. This isn't just a general type of story. And an example of that would be the flood. Right, the flood. I mean, I think it's very clear linguistically that they're taking from the ancient Near Eastern stories, the ancient Mesopotamian stories, and then there are other things that are not what I would consider to be clear, direct borrowing. Right. So, for example, when you just we just heard a story about. Or part of the story about the two people, and the wife is begging secretly the other to sleep. And of course, if it reminds you of Joseph, right, down in Egypt. This is a theme, right? This is a motif where the just, righteous guy doesn't succumb to the to the pleadings, the sexual advances. This is a motif. I wouldn't say that the person sitting here penning this Anubis Bata story, it has Joseph in mind. You know what I mean? I don't think that's what's going on here. So, or vice versa. So, but sorry, go ahead, Lars.
Yeah, sorry about that. Had to jump to something quick. So where was I? Yeah, nonetheless, if you promise never to proposition me again like this, I won't tell anyone what you said. And by the way, yeah, you're talking about the Joseph story. Yeah, it's very clearly underlined. In fact, they highlight some verses in here specifically in the Joseph story. Bata lifted the jar of seed to his shoulders and left for the field. He rejoined his brother, and they worked hard all day together. At sunset, Anubis left for home. Bata stayed behind to round up the cattle and pick up all the equipment. Then he drove the cattle home so that they could sleep in their own barn in the village. Meanwhile, the wife of Anubis was afraid of getting into trouble for what she had done, so she drank grease to make herself sick. She neither trimmed nor lit the lamps when it got dark. She did not bring Anubis any water to wash his hands when he got home. She just lay there vomiting. As Anubis entered the house, his wife told him, "When your brother came back for some seed, I was here alone. He propositioned me. Let your hair down and sleep with me just this once. I would not pay any attention to him. Aren't I like a mother to you?" Oh, okay. Sorry, she's kind of quoting what she said before. I would not pay any attention to him. Aren't I like a mother to you? I pleaded. Isn't your older brother like a father to you? But he panicked and beat me so that I would not tell you. Now, if you let him live, I will kill myself. Anubis became as furious as a leopard. He fetched his spear, sharpened it, and stood behind the barn door to wait for Bata to return with the cattle later that evening. When the first cow went into the barn, she warned Bata, "Your older brother is waiting to kill you with his spear. Run." As soon as Bata looked under the door of the barn and saw his older brother's feet, he dropped the tools he was carrying and ran. His older brother chased him with his spear. Bata began to pray. Re Harkti, I don't know how to, I'm probably butchering that. Re Harakti, you are my divine patron. Only you can judge between the just and the unjust. The moment Re had his prayer or heard his prayer, he created a lake full of crocodiles to protect Bata and to separate him from his older brother. When it was dawn and Re Harakti rose over the horizon, Bata argued his case with his older brother in broad daylight. Why are you hunting me? Why do you want to kill me without giving me a chance to speak in my defense? I am still your younger brother. You and your wife are like father and mother to me. Then Bata told him everything that had happened. He swore to the truth of his story with an oath and an ordeal. All right?
Yeah.
So help me, Re Harakti. Only an unfaithful wife could get you to take up your spear and try to kill me for no reason. Then he took his knife, cut off his penis, and threw it into the lake where a catfish swallowed it. Bata went into exile in the valley of the Cedars in Syria, Palestine, and Anubis set off for home in the morning. He struck his forehead with his hand and smeared his face with dirt. When he got home, he killed his wife and fed her body to the dogs. Then he mourned his younger brother. And the story concludes when the divine assembly provides Anubis with another wife. Eventually, Anubis becomes pharaoh. Later, Bata is reconciled with Anubis and succeeds him as pharaoh.
Yeah, and I mean, I find that, but again, you can hear sort of broad parallels, right? But I wouldn't say that there's I wouldn't say that there's direct borrowing. I would say that would be an example of something that there's some broad motifs that just move around in the ancient Near East, just so that it's clear. An ordeal, if that's what it's referring to there, you see something like it in Numbers chapter 5, where the woman is accused of having had sex with a guy, but the husband suspects it. He gets jealous, but he doesn't have any real evidence, and so he brings his wife to the tabernacle, and the priest does this ritual. It's a type of ordeal, and what that's right, gets some water, scrapes dirt off the floor of the tabernacle, puts it in the water. There's a ritual that's pronounced, and then she holds the glass and says, "I have done nothing wrong," and she drinks it. And the idea is that it's up to the god then, right? Because if Yahweh knows that she's guilty, that water will poison her, and the text is actually very complicated. Something happens to her related to childbirth, probably a miscarriage, in my opinion, but it's not terribly clear. But there's something similar in Mesopotamia. You have the river ordeal. If you think about where the Euphrates River is, it bends by Hit, up near Mari. That was a place of the river ordeal. They would throw people into the water. People would jump into the water, and the water, which was a god, would either drown them or do something to them. But the god was judging, right? The god was the judge. So anyway, sorry, that's probably more than anybody wanted to know in here.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good.
Yeah, sorry, that was a phone call. No, didn't want to pick it up. I actually wanted to ask, how much do you know about like Greek work? Oh my God. Actually, no, let's talk to Zeopata.
Hi.
So how do you pronounce that? Zupater?
I say Zupater.
Zupater. Okay.
Yeah, or just maybe Zoo works.
All right.
And thanks for calling me in. I had my iPad and my phone on, and the phone picked it up. So
I see.
it's going to be a little bit of a shaky
I'll be right
signal.
back.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I had some classes at the University of Cincinnati, and I had a really good professor there named Tony York. And he had an interesting way of telling the stories from the Old Testament. And when you got to the Cain and Abel story, one of the ways he explained it is one is I guess it's Cain represents a sedentary, like farming lifestyle, and Abel would represent more like the nomads, the people who had to have land to graze their animals. And so people who are wanting to settle down in one place and claim the land will naturally come into conflict. So the city builders come into conflict with the nomads who, if there's grass, they don't see any reason why they can't take their animals there. And Cain and Abel, the way he told it, was a reflection of that ancient struggle, the reality of life in the ancient Near East.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that using motifs around the area, they adapted it to their own situation. So I think that Cain is meant to represent the South, Kingdom of Judah, or just the Negev, maybe. And then Abel is supposed to represent Israel, the north. And now see, I love the Cain and Abel story. In fact, I love it so much that I got a tattoo. Now this is just, have you guys ever seen this show Supernatural?
I've seen it a few times.
Okay, well they have this this story arc where Cain shows up, and you know the mark of Cain that's talked about in the Bible. It's not really clear what it is.
Right.
So they had this nifty representation. They had like a literal mark on an arm, and I just love the story arc so much, and I like the Bible story so much that I got the mark of Cain. If you see that, it's kind of hard to see.
Oh,
that's the
cool.
way it was portrayed in Supernatural.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, later traditions for the mark of Cain was just like, it's dark skin. The mark of Cain is dark skin, so therefore we should subjugate black people. That was kind of the reasoning.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I do like the story. In fact, my favorite part of the story is like near the end where God is talking to Cain, and he's like, "Where's Abel?" And Cain says, "Am I my brother's keeper?"
Right. I think that's a reflection also of like being a shepherd. You're a keeper of animals. So I think it's kind of a wordplay that remained in the story. Being a keeper, like, am I? He's. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Sorry. I got a text and then forgot what I was going to say because that's how this works.
We were talking about an
I think these
Egyptian parallel. One
there's
question I had is, I wonder if there's any way of finding out what the word was that was translated as muscles in the English version
of the Anubis story?
Muscles.
I'm sure there is. If Dr. Bryson were here, she'd probably be able to tell us right off the top of her head. I'm assuming it's an Egyptian text. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
This sadly just gives me an English translation.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this discussion. So Skylar and I don't know if you guys saw the Iron Raw thing that I did.
Yeah, I did.
Not yet. Not yet.
It was really good.
It was a lot of fun. He's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy.
Oh, I got to meet him twice. He's a sweetheart. Him and his wife are lunch.
Yeah. So that was like there was the first response to Mike Winger, but Skylar, of course, Skylar Fiction had that debate with him, several weeks now ago, and Skylar said, let's do a response, like a response series to him. So I think Saturday night we're going to do the first response. It's going to be more, I think, the moral argument question. Skylar's obviously going to talk about that more than I am. But then after that, it's going to get back into slavery and some of these other things that they talked about. But yeah, it's very interesting.
Response to that video, to your video with Aaron Ra?
No, it'll be my video with Aaron was a response to.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Winger.
That's right. So Winger's response to Aaron's video, and then this video series that Skylar and I are going to do, it's a response, or it's an analysis, I guess, of Skylar and Mike's debate that they did. So should be interesting. Yeah.
I left a comment on. I met Aaron Ra at the ARC protest that was near here back this summer. So yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Aaron is a very good friend of mine. I met him a few years ago at Gateway to Reason, and since then he had this speaking tour, and he had 2 talks in Milwaukee in a pretty short time span. So for about a week, we were just hanging out, going to bars, and it was fucking awesome.
Wow.
And sadly, I didn't see him because we went to UWM, and UWM has like some street preachers around there. Sadly, we did not run into any of them. That was a bummer. But no, Aaron's a great dude. He's actually coming on my show this Sunday.
Oh, fantastic.
For Atheist Sunday School. Yeah, last time he was on the show when he was in town, he would we were both like super smashed, but he was so drunk that he couldn't remember doing it afterwards. We right after the show, we went to BD's Mongolian Grill. I don't know if you guys ever been there. It's a good place, and maybe it was just our drunk brains talking, but the food was just incredible. And then we went there a couple days later, and it was still good, but not nearly as good as we remembered it.
Right.
Yeah, I met him.
An adventure.
I met him in Los Angeles and in Riverside. But the first time he did a conference with Matt Dillahunty and Seth Andrews, and I got to have dinner with him and Alondra afterwards with a couple others. And then I got a signed copy of his book, The Foundation of False Sense of Creationism, too. Yeah. And the second time I met him was at Riverside. His wife, Lalandra. Lalandra's awesome. She gave a talk about skepticism over to a group in Riverside called RAFT, Riverside Atheists and Freethinkers. And afterwards, we had dinner there, too. It was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that stream with him, and I felt bad that that the screen didn't switch. I don't know what happened. But,
I was kind of confused about that too, but I thought maybe he's just giving you all the time the FaceTime. I didn't know what it was, but it turns out it was a Google Hangouts mistake.
Yeah. So I guess I'm obviously the wrong person to ask about it, but I guess there's something that you can do to lock who the screen is on or something.
I could do that now from my screen, just on my screen. I click on you, I see only your face. I click on Milwaukee, or how do you pronounce your name?
Zupater.
Zupater. Yeah, I can.
You can call me David if you like.
David. And what was your name again? Milwaukee.
Lawrence, but you can call me asshole.
Okay, Larry.
But if we don't.
So Larry, sweetie. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was actually going to ask, how much do you know about Greek and Greek? Because I'm studying ancient Greek right now.
Are you asking me, or who are you asking?
I was asking Josh.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I know I've only really read Septuagintal Greek and Koine Greek. Of course, I know Koine Greek much better than I do know Septuagintal, but like classical Greek, I didn't really get into it much. Yeah,
because I'm studying Homeric right now, and I'm trying to find it from there. And Yeah, I really like it because there's some funny stuff I've been wondering, especially from Lucian of Samosata. That guy's hilarious.
Oh yeah, that guy's great.
Yeah, have you guys heard of his thing, Zeus Rants? Oh, it's the funniest. It's
No.
the
Sounds
funny.
familiar.
It's one of the funniest things I've ever read. It's a satire that he wrote back in, I think, the second century, and it's about Zeus, and he's on Mount Olympus. I've been telling all my friends about it because it's just so funny. Zeus is ranting. It's called Zeus the Tragedian also because of the Greek title, but yeah, it's also called Zeus Rants. So Zeus is ranting, and the gods are going, "What's wrong? Did the Titans escape?" No. And Hera's like, "Are you having another love affair, aren't you?" And he said, "Sex is not something to think about right now in this trying time." And then they're like, "Well, what's happening?" And Zeus says, "Well, on Earth there's a Stoic named Timocles and an Epicurean named Damus, and they're debating about whether or not we exist, and Damus is winning."
So you said Timocles. That one struck me as interesting because I mean I'm more than certain that it's a different person named Timocles, but there was also a Greek arch pirate named Timocles.
Yeah, it might be a different person.
It is most definitely a different one.
Yeah, but it's a common name.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, essentially it's a satire about just the gods freaking out because Damus is an atheist who's winning a debate against Timocles. And it's so funny because, like, he says, we have to assemble the gods. We have to have a meeting. Hermes called the meeting. Hermes calls everybody. And he goes, what kind of call was that? Make it poetic. Make it sound magisterial. Remember that shit you said at Homer? Sorry. And so, yeah. And then it took me the second time reading it to realize that they're calling in statues. because Zeus says, I want them ordered this way. Gold, silver, bronze, ivory, you know. And then they all show up, and Poseidon is like, "Wait, why am I sat behind this dog-headed god Anubis?" You know. And then Hermes is like, "Because you're made of silver, and you're not worth as much as his golden snout." And then the Colossus of Rhodes shows up and says, "Look, I know I'm made of bronze, but you know, considering how much bronze I'm made of, I must be worth as much as gold, right?" And they're like, "We're not having this debate about price of metal. Sit in the bronze section." It's a really, really funny.
Has everyone here or anyone here seen the Irvin Finkel documentary about the Ark, or the Corrigal, as he would have it?
I haven't. I've heard about it.
Yeah. I hear the the interpretation of the other ancient Near East document to the Ark, like saying that it's like a cube shape. Like they're saying that it's a cube shape. And I have a hard time believing that. It's hard to imagine that someone would say to design a boat like a cube. To me, when I read it, it sounds like they're saying just make the sides even and make the height even on both sides. That's what it sounds like to me. But taking that in with the idea of it just being a large coracle? I don't know. How do you read it, Josh?
Yeah, actually, this is something that people have asked me before, not specifically about the coracle, but about just the dimensions of the ark and the different stories. It's not something that I've actually looked into. Finkel, of course, deals with the flood story, and he's obviously a brilliant scholar. And that's not to say that he's right, but something I think we need to take seriously. But yeah, I'd want to look into what the text actually says and try to figure that out. Sometimes descriptions of dimensions and building preparations, those sorts of things are actually difficult to figure out. Like the Gudea cylinders in Sumerian, the description of building Ningirsu's temple, it's tough because it's not entirely clear in the text, which is funny. It's not entirely clear in the text exactly what's going on. Right. And you would expect it to be very clear, right? Because the whole point of the text is Ningirsu telling him how to build his temple. But
right,
nonetheless.
Maybe this is a difference in the scribes and the actual builders. Maybe the scribe writing it probably after the fact didn't really know what the dimensions were. So the point was to say it was divinely commanded. And so any measurements will do. That's just, I don't know. I don't know if that's scholarship or not.
I mean, I think that a lot of the times they describe how to build something in ancient texts, or how to even divide something, like the land in Joshua. I think that a lot of that was written after the fact to kind of just keep a record of it, because it is kind of specific, but not so specific that you could build something from it. So I think I think they were written after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, and even those texts. I mean, for example, we certainly have many real estate texts, that are written and and preserved in Akkadian and Sumerian that are texts that talk about boundaries or that talk about markings. I still think it's there's a certain amount of scientific specification or mathematical specification that you can apply to those texts that are designed to do that, right? They have to mark out particular boundaries, legal texts, When you come up on literature, though, like something like the Book of Joshua, it's a literary text, and the genre is different than a legal text, or a legal text that's designed to act as something that demarcates. And there are specialists, obviously, that deal in these areas in particular, in these particular genres, and of course you want to look into what they have to say about it. But I just think we come at these texts from a very scientific, historical, 21st century point of view, right, and assume that that debate that I had on Monday, or discussion, or whatever you want to call it, on the Non Sequitur show about salt, and trying to figure out precisely what kind of chemical compound that is, based on an attribute that's given to it, and then looking at it as we understand it today. Salt doesn't lose its flavor, and so it can't be that kind of table salt. It's got to be this other one. I think is coming to the text with a scientific specificity and precision that they're not coming to it with. So
that kind of gets to the roots of fundamentalism. As the 19th, 20th century rolled around, the currency that people really started living by was science. And we could build almost anything with science. And so the people who wanted to promote the ancient texts, I think they had to start trying to say, well, we've got something like that. These are just as good as that. And it's just, I think the way in your discussion with Aaron Ra, it reminds me of that it's really just it's an abuse of the text. It's trying to read the text for something that it's not.
Yeah.
Try to read it as trying to read these mythical texts as scientific documents, or some people are. Yeah. And that's not why they were written. That's not what they were written for.
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what is a firmament? What's the blue sky? I mean, you got to put yourself in the shoes of people back then. They see they don't have telescopes or anything like that. They just see a vast body of blue stuff called the ocean, and they notice that the sky's blue too, and sometimes water falls from there.
Yeah, I mean, right. and there's I'll be doing a show in the near term on the Non Sequitur about cosmic geography in the Bible and in the ancient Near East in general. There's been a fair amount of work done on that. Actually, recently I talked to somebody at the ASOR conference that Megan and I were at, who works in this currently, and we're going to have her on the show. It's gonna be nice. She'll probably talk a little bit about it, but understanding, it's important to not consider them too primitive in the sense that they're dumb, right? Because they're definitely not dumb. These are very intelligent people, right. But they can only work with what they have, right, and what they understand. So you can have somebody that writes something that by our standards would be considered really stupid, right, and immature and very childish, but who can also write this beautiful Akkadian poetry, like we read today. And I think that if you come at that trying to say, well, they're primitive, and dumb, and that's why they're doing it. No, they're operating in their world. They're operating in what they understand. And I think trying to go back, and people get into trouble doing this, and you guys know it, obviously, all the time. When they try to say, well, God is perfect, right? The God of the Bible is perfect, and so God can't say something that's not scientifically accurate, right? And so when we read something like Genesis 1, or we read something like in Isaiah, where the heavens are being stretched out like a curtain, well, that has to be. We can read it in the ancient milieu, and that they understand that, but God has this deeper meaning behind it, and I just think that's sort of silly. And if there is a God that's superintending these texts, which I doubt, but if there is a God, to require him to have that level of specificity in a mysterious way behind the text, I think is just it's just holding to a framework to hold to a framework.
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask, so modern day Samaria, Mesopotamia, that's all in Iraq, right?
Yeah, Iraq and Syria.
You ever been there?
Yeah, I went to Syria in 2010. I excavated a site called Mara, which it's just about an hour and a half east of Aleppo. I was there with an archaeological team from Hopkins, and it was a joint Belgian team. But it was good. They put me out at the. I should probably talk about this sometime. They put me out at the edge of the tell. There's a rampart that we were excavating, and there was a necropolis, center of the city, that had tombs on it, and but out where I was at the wall was where the village was, the modern day village, right just out off the tell, and I was the least experienced archaeological person out there, right? Everybody else was an archaeologist. I'm just an Assyriologist. And I said to the dig director, who is an amazing guy, Dr. Glenn Schwartz, I said, well, why are you putting me out here? I don't have any experience. He said, oh, you're tall and big. And it'll keep the villagers that aren't digging, it'll keep them from coming across, because you can yell at them and say, hey, get back, get out of here. Oh, all right.
So how tall are you? Because you look about this big in the screen.
Yeah, I'm a little over 6'2".
Yeah, it's pretty tall.
But it's this bed. I read through some of the comments on the on Aaron's on that stream I did with Aaron, and they're like, "Man, that's a huge bed." Or is it? Is he just really, really short? And yeah, I mean, I get that, but I don't know the things. This is a really tall bed. It's just really tall. But
I just barely noticed.
I should probably comment on this, just because it was another comment that I saw. I feel weird commenting a lot of times in a video that's about me or that I'm in. I don't know. It just feels weird and petty. But anyway, they said that they looked into my seminary, and Capital Bible Seminary is now like an affiliated or a part of Lancaster Bible College, and that nobody accepts credits from it. So who knows what this guy knows? That's true, right? The school kind of went under in 2012, maybe. They ran out of money. Mm-hmm. They went bankrupt. And part of the reason was the seminary focused so much on the languages, which is fantastic for me. But there aren't a lot of people that really want to learn Syriac, and Ugaritic and Akkadian and all these other things. So, even though it was very rigorous, the attendance was dropping because there were so many people in the area. It's just outside of DC. That wanted to do other things. So they made this big push to do counseling. They were going to bring a lot of counseling students in, and that did something for a little while, but ultimately it sort of ended up being this, the Old Testament, New Testament professors that wanted to do linguistics. They were kind of kept from doing linguistics as much as they wanted, and so it sort of watered that down a little bit. And then because the counseling program is a little newer, it was harder to get that going. And so ultimately it just sort of was a wash. But for anybody that's watching, anybody that's listening, based on that master's degree, I got into Johns Hopkins. So it's good. I'm okay.
So you passed the entrance exam either way.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was going to college and taking classes relevant to Ugaritic was just coming up as it was kind of cutting edge at the time.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff has gone on in Ugaritic in the last 20 years?
Oh my gosh, tons.
Yeah, they were saying that's kind of the future of like Near East studies was Ugaritic.
Yeah, I mean, so I took Ugaritic at Hopkins, but I need to say very much up front that it was like a peripheral language for me, and I was dedicating a lot of time to Sumerian and Akkadian. So Professor Lewis, I'm really sorry. You know, he knows this. He's the one that told me. I didn't do as much as I maybe should have done in the class, but at any rate, it's another Semitic language, but it's written in cuneiform script. It's on tablets, so we have the originals, but it's alphabetic, so it's a lot easier to learn in that sense. You don't have to really. Oh, I see. You don't have to grapple with all the syllabic writings and logographic writings, all that stuff that comes along with reading cuneiform in Akkadian or Sumerian. But actually, if anybody's interested in learning it, John Hunegard just did a brand. It can't be more than a couple years old, maybe 2016. Just did an introduction to Ugaritic in the Hendrickson, published by Hendrickson, which is the series that does like basics of biblical Hebrew. They're big into like these introductory languages. And actually, I talked to somebody at ASOR at the conference that I went to. I'm writing a Sumerian grammar, and it's meant to be absolutely basic. It's to take you in, English, and that's all it assumes. And I was telling her about the YouTube channel, and she said, "Who's your publisher?" And I said, "Oh, well, I think, we're going to do Digital Hammurabi Publications." And she said, "Well, send the manuscript to me when you're done. We might be able to publish it, in a better way." And so I like the idea of us publishing, but anyway, but anyway, the point is John Hunegard has.
Whose channel is this? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Whose channel is this?
This one.
The name. Oh, okay. So yeah, I just saw that you guys are teaching Sumerian. I've gone through your the first one, and I've taken a lot of notes. So
okay.
It's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I just recorded lesson 8 today. So that we've got 7 lessons up, and we've started putting answer keys up for the Sumerian. I go through the actual exercises. I was told that my handwriting is appalling. I'm really sorry about that. It's true. But we've got, after lesson 8.
You call yourself a scribe.
I know, right? Isn't that terrible? But
you ain't got nothing on this.
But there'll be 11 lessons total, so 3 more lessons in Sumerian will go up, and then we're going to start translating through, because that'll give you all the basic grammar, and then we're going to start actually translating through some royal inscriptions and from the cuneiform. It should be good. Should be good.
Well, sounds fantastic. If you were talking about publishing earlier, I'm partnered up with a journal that's going to start publishing at the beginning of next year, Sherm Journal. They specifically do stuff about the ancient Near East and biblical archaeology and all that stuff, all that nifty stuff we enjoy. And at some point, I'm going to try to get something published in there. But if you want, I can get you in contact with the guy, and you can probably publish it there if you need to.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, my hope sort of here, and then I'm probably going to have to go because my arm is starting to really bug me, and I need to take some medication for it. But one of the things that I really want to do with this channel, and maybe not immediately, but hopefully at least by maybe this coming summer, is to start actually doing publications of texts on from people, with people on YouTube, people that, I mean, like us, right? A lot of you guys that I interact with, very intelligent people, right? Maybe haven't gone and gotten a PhD or something, but you really research your topics, and it's difficult to get published, if you don't have all the credentials that go along with it. So like Skylar's a great example. Skylar has done a whole lot of research on the things that he talks about. And I'm actually talking to him about maybe writing a book. It'd be difficult to get a book like that written maybe somewhere else. But if Digital Hammurabi, gets a process together for doing that, then maybe we can be sort of the funnel through which people can get their ideas published without having to really like fight to argue that they know what they're talking about with some of these other publishers. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's kind of my big issue with my channel right now. People don't take me seriously because I don't have a degree. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go to school and get a degree in something. So
nice.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I feel honestly, I feel kind of blessed in that way because the military made it easy from a financial standpoint to get my bachelor's, get my master's, and then of course I got a scholarship to go to Hopkins. I mean, it's things have really worked out well for me. But so I kind of want to make that available and try to help people that haven't been given those opportunities as easily. So
yeah, I'm trying to get into college next year because I need to do something with my life. My life kind of took a nosedive a couple of weeks ago, and it's like I need to do something, And so I've been talking to universities. They told me I should take a year of college and then I could go to university. So I'm going to try to do that.
Well, if Megan and I can do anything to help with that, please let us know.
Yeah, thanks, man.
But guys, I'm gonna have to close it. I'm really sorry because this is actually a lot of fun, but my arm is starting to feel a little fiery. So thank you all very much for coming on, and thank you all who are watching. I think we still have 30-some people watching, so I really appreciate it. And if you haven't liked the stream, please do so. And if you have questions, please email us at digitalhammurabi@gmail.com or comment on the videos or whatever. But again, thank you guys for being on the stream. And until next time.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, man. It was great.
Sure. Well, until next time, resist poor scholarship. Always ask, how do you know that? See ya.